Hello, dear students. Welcome back to Rajeshwari's Commerce and Management Study Hub. In the previous class, we have discussed about the basics of accounting, what are the elements of accounting, the process, and most importantly, the balance sheet part, financial statement elements we have understood. So the five elements is going to repeat in all your accounts, and all those elements other expenses or items whatever you are treating in the business will be part of that particular elements only. So today we will understand what is accounting equation. In accounts also we have an equation. It is also called as balance sheet equation. How this balance sheet equation has been started? Who introduced this balance sheet equation? There is accounting equation. In 1494, an Italian mathematician, Luca Pasilio, formulated this accounting equation with the concept base LHS is equals to RHS. So yesterday with one example while understanding the liability, we have written left hand side and right hand side. So left hand side we have written liabilities and right hand side we have written assets. So always the two aspects also you have seen, debit aspect and the credit aspects. All the debits have a equal credit. So debit is equals to credit, like that. Your left hand side will be equal to your right hand side. Based on this concept, this equation has been formulated. So here you can see the equation. Assets is equals to liabilities plus equity, and equity includes the capital also. Here, why assets is equals to the liabilities and the capital or equity? We have understood what is assets. If you have not watched my previous video, please go back and watch, because if you are not clear with these concepts, meanings, then you won't be able to understand what is asset or liability, how it will be treated. So that's why you need to watch previous video. Asset means what we have said. It is an economic resources which is going to give an future benefit, and it can be owned and controlled by the owner, right? And liability, it is what you own to others, right? It is an obligation. And equity is whatever the unit of money, shares you have collected from the shareholders, from thousands of people or lakhs of people. Based on your size of the business, the number of shareholders will be depending. So that is equity. How your obligations will be created? ಸಾಲ ಯಾವ ಬೇಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಆಧಾರದ ಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಾಲ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಈಗ ನೀವು ಬ್ಯಾಂಕಿಗೆ ಲೋನಿಗಂತ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ರೈಟ್? Once you approach, as soon as you get into and approach the bank, are they are going to sanction you the loan? They will check what mortgage you are giving, what surety you are giving, what assurance you are giving, how they can recover the amount when you become an insolvent, right? So the obligations will be created based on your capacity. That is why your assets is equal to liabilities and plus equity, because equity is you have raised a fund by issuing a shares, but it is also an future obligation. The owners can claim this. So this also you need to understand. Claim equity also, they are claiming. Owners can claim after settling the liabilities. The remaining amount will be belongs to the equity. That we have understood from the yesterday's concepts, right? So now you are clear with why asset is equals to your liabilities plus equity. It is your liabilities plus equity depends on your assets. That's why your liability and equity will be created based on what asset, what the worth, the capability you have. Okay. Now, accounting equation is the foundation of double entry accounting system. See, every transaction have two effects, right? The debit aspect and the credit aspect. It is not called as plus or minus, right? It is for every credit there will be a debit. For every debit there will be a credit. And see here, always your assets, the place will not change. It remains, it holds their places. Assets is equals to liability plus P represents here capital or equity. Or if you have your assets and liabilities, you need to find out your capital or equity. Then assets minus liability, you will get capital. If you have your capital and assets, then how you will find your liability? Liability is equal to A minus B, that is your capital or equity. So are you clear with the concept? Which is just simple. Your LHS is equals to RHS. Always you need to remember this. And whenever you are passing any entry, you should be an owner. Then you will understand the viewpoint of that particular entry, how it is going to affect in the business. Next we'll continue. Now what are all the stuff? What are all the items we are having under the asset and assets and liabilities? First we will understand asset. The stuff business owns or control. Earlier the definition was only owns. What you owns, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಂತದ್ದು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅವನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಡೆಫಿನಿಷನ್ ನ ರೀಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So what you owns or what you have control, when you have taken any lease agreement, but making a lease, you are using the particular property to generate your future benefits, then it is also called as your assets only. Okay, owns or control, that is coming under assets. So what are all the items coming under your assets? I have written a few items: cash, inventory, PPE, that is property, plant and equipment, receivables, investment, fixed assets. Now, this your assets are equal to the stuff business owns to owner, outsider. Here under liability, it has been classified into two: owners and outsiders, because the owner is rises the funds, equity generates through issuing the shares. Under share capital also we have different share capital, preference share capital and the equity share capital. That's why here we have mentioned equity, they are the real owners of the company. Or retained earnings. So you have not declared a dividend to plug back into the business. You retained in the business whatever the profit you have generated. It is called as your retained earnings. Liabilities is, it is an obligation whatever you have created, obligation of repaying. You are promising to repay one or the another debt. Okay, that is loan, payables, the bills payable, bank overdraft. Bank overdraft means it is a facility given to the current account holders by charging some interest amount. Okay, so when you have insufficient balance in your account also, still you can draw the amount. For that specific certain percentage of interest will be charged. Here you need to observe, note that income or gains will increase owner's equity. Increase owner's equity. Now you are a owner. You started a business. You had a 2 floor of building. So in the first floor you are running a business. Ground floor and the second floor you have given for rent purpose. You are receiving some rent from the building. It is an office building. It will increase your equity, right? Because you are adding to the whatever the income you have received, you are adding to your capital, so it will increases. If it is an expenses, You paid salary, you paid rent. Then those are called your expenses or losses that will reduce. If you generate profit, revenue from your business, you will add to your capital. So that increases. If you earn a losses, then it will be deducted from your capital. So these things you need to keep in mind while solving the problem. Now we'll solve one practical problem for your more understanding of this equation. Here the question: prepare an accounting equation from the following transactions in the books of Mr. Ramu for January 2023. So in the books of Ramu, we are passing these entries, this equation. What is the equation? The equation is assets is equals to liabilities plus equity. So first you need to identify here three different heads. What are the assets? Which are all assets you should know? Liability and equity. And here in accounting equation also you will have two effects. So you need to identify which are those two effects also. The first transaction is on Jan 1st, invested capital in the firm rupees 20,000. Purchased goods on credit from Das and Company for rupees 2,000. Bought plant for cash rupees 8,000. On 8th Jan, purchased goods for rupees cash 4,000. 12th, sold goods for cash. Cost of the goods is 4,000. Earned a profit of 2,000. The total value is 6,000. Paid to Das and Company in cash rupees 1,000. Received from Bhuvan rupees 300, being a debtor. Paid salary 6,000. Received interest 5,000. Paid wages 3,000. So these are all the transactions which happen in the business in the books of Ramu. Now what is the first entry? Invested capital in the firm 20,000. See here the two accounts are affecting. Ramu invested capital. See, what is capital? Capital means whenever you are starting a new business, whatever the amount you have invested in the business is called capital. So here the two accounts are affecting is, one is cash, right? The cash is coming in, means coming into the business. You are an accountant of the business, so you need to understand all the transaction in the viewpoint of business only. Now what Ramu has done, Ramu invested the capital, the cash into the business. So the cash is coming inside the business. That means the cash is increasing, right? And it is in the form of capital. Capital. So here, see, effect of transactions on asset, liabilities and capital. Date, transaction. So what is the equation? Equation is assets is equals to liabilities plus capital. Now what is the first transaction? Jan 23. the first on Jan 1st he started business, invested capital in the firm, in the firm. So the whatever the he has invested, that is the cash. It is an asset. Cash is an asset, and there is no liability in the form of capital. In the form of capital. Asset, cash is increased 20,000. At the same time, the capital is also increased. Next, purchased goods on credit from Das and Company for rupees 2,000. So, in the previous class, we have understood what is credit purchase. Credit purchase means what? You are purchasing the goods, but you are not making the payment immediately. Immediate ಆಗಿ payment ನ ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Right? But goods you are receiving immediately. So, on second, purchased goods on credit. The goods are coming into the business. Right? So, it is a positive effect on your business. At the same time, you have created an obligation of repayment to the Das company. ನೀವು ದಾಸ್ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ, 1 ತಿಂಗಳು ಬಿಟ್ಟು 3 ತಿಂಗಳು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅವರ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರ ಪ್ರಕಾರವಾಗಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ. ಆಗ ನಿಮ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ 2,000 liability. But ಏನು changes ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ capital ಅಲ್ಲಿ. There is no change in capital, right? So what is your revised equation is? Revised equation 20 plus 2, 22. Year 2000 plus 20,000. 20 plus 2, 22 is equals to your assets 22. What is the next transaction? Bought plant for cash, rupees 8,000. See, plant includes property, plant and equipment, whatever you are using for the operations. So again, the property, plant and equipment, plant, whatever you have brought in cash. So it increased your assets, right? On fourth, brought plant. Here it is affecting in two ways. How it is affecting in two ways? See, you brought a plant by paying cash, making payment in cash, right? So whenever you made a payment in cash, it is reduced your cash and increased your fixed asset. So you have one negative effect and one positive effect, right? Understood this? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದವಾಗ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ನ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಯ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳ ನಂಬರು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಿತ್ತು? ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇತ್ತು. ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಈಗ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆಡ್ ಆನ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು. So how that effect we are showing? What is the amount of plant? 8,000 plus 8,000. That is, you have received the plant and minus 8,000 you paid the cash, and there is no change in the liability and capital. So your revised equation is 22,000, 2,000 plus 20,000. The equation is remaining same, right? Equals. Next, purchased goods for cash rupees 4,000. Again, it is having two effects. What are the two effects? So you purchased goods by paying cash. The goods are increased, cash decreased. Cash decreased. Purchased goods for cash. For cash. Plus 4,000 minus 4,000. And there is no effect on your liability and capital. So revised equation is 22 equals to plus 20. Next entry is sold goods for cash. 4,000 is the cost of the machinery. Goods. The profit is 2,000. The total sold value is 6,000. Now, here you can recall the note which I have given you. Any income or gain will increase the owner's equity. So here the profit is increasing owner's equity. Right? So how we are passing this entry? Sold goods. When we sold goods, the goods are reduced, but cash is increased. Plus 6,000. I received a cash of rupees 6,000. That's why I am recording plus 6,000. I received an excess of cash more than the actual value, but I can't show the goods also more than the actual. So I am showing only minus 4,000. Actual worth only we are showing here. This 6,000 includes profit also. You received a cash of 6,000, but you can't give goods for the 6,000. The value of the goods was only 4,000. That's why you have recorded only 4,000. And what was the note? Any profit or gain, it will affect on the owner's equity. So plus 2,000. The profit is 2,000. Right? Profit is 2,000. Now the revised equation is 24,000 is equals to 2,000 plus 22,000. 22 plus 2, 24. Your assets is equal to your liability and capital. Right? The next transaction is paid to Das and Company in cash rupees 1,000. So we paid cash, right? That is reduced in cash, and we purchased it from Das Company. Do you remember the second Jan 2nd transaction? Purchased goods on credit 2,000. The worth of the goods was 2,000. In out of 2,000, now I am making payment of 1,000. So my liability is decreased 1,000. There is no change in the capital. So the revised equation is 23 1 plus 22. 22 plus 1, 23. Received from Bhuvan Here we are understanding one new terminology of account, that is debtor. When whom you will call as a debtor? When you will call as a debtor? Here, debtor is the person one who owns amount to the business. He is a customer. You are giving him a credit facility. When he is not able to pay immediately cash, you are giving a contractual obligation. It is known as sundry debtor. It is also called as trade debtor, trade receivables, book debt, or debtors. The debtors are classified into three: good debt, doubtful debt, bad debt. Good debt means you are going, whatever the amount you have paid, that whole amount you are going to realize. You are going to get it back from your customer. That's why it is called as good debt. Doubtful debt means may or may not be realized amount. Example, the customer is supposed to pay 2000 to you, but he paid only 1900. 100 rupees you have a doubtful. You may or may not be receiving it. Bad debt means you cannot be realized at all. You are not going to realize this 100 rupees. You will just ignore or you will forget this 100. Only your debtor is going to pay you 1900. That is called as a bad debt. So received from Bhuvan. Bhuvan is your customer. He is your debtor. What was the amount we received from Bhuvan? We received from Bhuvan rupees 300. So here 300 we received. For that 300 goods we paid, plus 300 minus 300 received from Bhuvan rupees 300 is a debtor. Being a debtor means when you are giving any goods or assets selling to the customer, then he is called as your debtor when he is paying on credit basis, not for cash transaction. It is for credit transaction, credit sales. Okay, the revised equation is 23,000. There is no change in your liability and capital. The next transaction is paid salary. The paid salary is also having two effects. How it is affecting the expenses? We have seen the note, right? When you pay salary, you are paying through cash. So your cash is reduced. At the same time, it is an expense. It will affect on your capital also. So your capital also reduces. It is affecting on your cash and capital. Paid salary 6,000 minus 6,000 minus 6,000 from your capital also. So 23 minus 6 is, the revised equation is 17,000. No changes in your liability. 22 minus 6 is 16,000. What is the next entry? The next entry is received interest 5,000. So received interest also, how it is affecting? It is increasing your cash. So it is an income. So income also affects on your capital. It increases your capital also. Received interest plus 5,000. Cash is increasing. No change in liability. Increasing in your capital. So revised equation is 22,000 plus 21,000. And the last transaction is paid wages on 31st Jan. Paid wages 3,000. It is reducing your cash, also affecting on your capital. So capital also reduced by 3,000. Revised equation is 19,000. No change. 18,000. Understood accounting equation? Are you feeling easy? So I'll end up with one small story. I have heard somewhere this story. So I want to share with you people. It will take just 2 seconds. ಒಬ್ಬ ಒಂದಿನ ಒಂದು ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನಂತೆ. ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ 2 ಗಂಟೆ ಆಗಿರತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಂಡತಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹುಷಾರಿರಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ಲಂಸಮ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. ಅವನು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನಂತೆ. ಆ ಸಮಯಕ್ಕೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಸೇಟು ಆ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ದೇವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವ್ರು ತುಂಬಾ ಅಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾನೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು. ಬೇಜಾರು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಏನು ಎತ್ತ ಅಂತ ವಿಚಾರಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವಾಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಈ ತರ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಲಂಸಮ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಪರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಗ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೋ ಏನೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅವನು ಸರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಚೆಕ್ ಬರ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇದು ನನ್ನ ವಿಸಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಾರ್ಡು ಇಟ್ಕೊ, ನಿಂಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಫರ್ದರ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಆಗ ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇಡ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ಸು, ನಾನು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಣ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬಂದ್ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಕೂತ್ಕೋತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನಂತೆ. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತೀಯ, ಮತ್ತೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾ? ಇವತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಬಂದ್ ದೇವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಬೇಡ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ನೀವ್ ಬಂದ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ, ಸೊ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ ನಂಗೆ ನೀವೇ ದೇವ್ರು ಅಂತ. ದೇವ್ರನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ಹುಡ್ಕೋದಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮೊಳಗೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಕೆಲ್ಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೇದ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಕ್ತಾಗ ಮಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಡಿ. ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರಿಗೆ ದೇವ್ರಾಗಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾರೋ ದೇವ್ರಾಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನೆನ್ಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಫಾರ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್. Any concepts or any particular problem if you have, you can mail me. I have given my email ID, so I will solve those question also. And if you are not yet subscribed, kindly subscribe. Don't forget to like and share. See you in next video.